Next election, I'm gonna run against you, and I'm gonna win.
All right, Mrs. Griffin, you want to take me on? Fine. But if you plan to beat me, you'll have to...
What is it?
A bee just flew in through the window. Don't...
Now look who's mayor. First order of business. Free honey for everyone. Yay, Mayor B, Mayor B, Mayor B. Ow! Oh, done stung myself.
Everything about Lemmy's playing sets him apart from other bass players, and for that matter, any other musicians, now that I think about it. I think the biggest thing is the Rickenbacker and the Marshalls. That's a sound that I don't think I've ever heard anybody create on bass. And he plays it a lot like some heavy metal guitar players play. He doesn't play guitar on bass, but it almost sounds like guitar.
Well, the basic difference is that most bass players sound like this. Whereas I sound quite different. Like that. I always wanted that sound, but I didn't necessarily know it then. It evolves, you know. What would you say, Tim?
Sorry?
How would you say my bass playing encompasses my personal personality and my outlook on life generally in the modern 21st century already?
Well, I think the phrase hammer and tongs comes to mind.
Really?
Yeah.
Not hammer, an anvil.
An anvil and tongs.
Anvil and tongs.
Yeah.
And hammer.
And hammer.
And stuff like that.
Yeah, very hard.
Actually, he's never heard us, like when we both
it's like the same time when we both
about different things. Like, because
you're talking about
actually, you know, he talks of one thing one minute and out the other. And nobody ever fucking understands the thing we say because actually we just two geezers trying to get along backstage, you know.
Yeah, and everything like that.
And things like that.
Yeah. Or something else.
Americans usually have a nervous breakdown around now. How do you know the CIA weren't involved in the Kennedy assassination? He's dead, isn't he? How do you sell a deaf guy a frog? Do you want to buy a frog? How do you make a dead baby float? 2 scoops of ice cream, 2 scoops of dead baby.
How would you describe the life you've lived the last 30 years in the rock circus?
Controlled madness.
But is it still as fun as it used to be to go around the world and play concerts?
Yeah, it's great, you know, it's a great job, I recommend it. You know, it's almost as good as being a TV interview.
Still a lot of movies backstage?
See any?
But what makes you the proudest in your career?
Survival, I think. Every year that goes by, I get a bit prouder, you know, because we proved that we weren't the trash band that they said we were originally, and every year we survive proves it a little bit more, you know. You know, like that, right?
What keeps you going? 30 years. What keeps you going and going?
Well, see, you have a dream when you're a kid, and my dream came true, so why stop it?
How long are you planning to keep going?
Oh, until 2047. Then I might slow down a bit. Might be 2048, I don't know.
I love everything about Lemmy. The music, fucking everything. Like, there's nothing not to like about Motorhead. It's a band that's got it all.
They're hardcore. They're proper hardcore band. They're like, I don't like Saxon and all that shit. They're like excellent. They're full on. They've always been full on. Motorhead are like, they set a standard for all the others to follow.
Every time you see them live, they make you deaf. I don't have to listen to my wife. So many, for about 5 days out of every year, my wife is totally ignored because oh, sorry, darling, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Sorry, I just can't hear you. They made me stone deaf forever!
That's all right.
It's the biggest thing that's ever happened to me. It's huge. I love that guy. And he's so much nicer than I thought he would be.
Why's that?
No, he's really humble. I thought it would be like, yeah, I don't give a shit. But when I said, your music really means something to me, and he looks at me and says, thank you. That, yeah, it really means something to me.
You look at him, he's probably very intimidating, but this is one of the nicest guys you could ever meet. I mean, there's so many people that hit him for stuff, and you know, you just look at him, and most of the people in his position would not pay attention to half of these things, and this is a guy who go out of his way to help anybody. You just see it in his heart.
When I was married before, right, and we were all on the road together, my husband was a huge, at the time, my husband Matthew, comes from Indiana, like just redneck kid, idolized Lemmy, like huge Motorhead fan. So we were on tour with Motorhead, and And me and Lemmy immediately have this connection. Me and my marriage was heavily on the rocks, and you know, Lemmy like my husband just wouldn't talk to him or anything, and Lemmy just would come up with T-shirts and like, hey Matt, and when we actually separated, he was telling all these people in town, and we were from Athens, Georgia, so it's a very, very small town. He was telling all these people that me and Lemmy were having this affair and blah blah blah. So he and 8 months later he died. So, but when I was going through all of his things, his mother gave me all these things to go through. I found a letter from Lemmy, and like he had written him a letter saying, I know at one point you really liked my band, and like, just so that for the record, Corey and I are really good friends. There's mutual love and respect there. She did nothing but talk about how much she loved you, and that I would never cross that line. I'm not that type of man, and it was just so cute because when you read the letter, and it was like, I know at one time you liked me and my band, and it's Lemmy and fucking Motorhead. It's like so bizarre, but he wrote this really beautiful letter to him, and with the red candle wax with the stamp on it, on the back, and sent it to him, like that type of shit, man. It's like he's a very, very honorable, generous, good man. He's very much a complex, emotional person, but there is a kind of a distancing that he's purposefully put in between the. Do you know what I mean? And I think a lot of that is because, well, from what he tells me, is from his youth, and how he's always had to look out for himself, and he's realised that 90% of the time the only person he can depend on is himself.
Can you tell me about the people who've been most important in your life?
Well, my mother, obviously, because she brought me up on her own, and my granny for filling in during the day. I mean, they were really important. And they really dictated my outlook on things, because being brought up by two women is different from having the big, heavy husband guy in the house, So I never got the, like, let's go out and kill some small furry animals, son, like, I never had that shit going on, I just never missed a father because I never had one, So I didn't care. He was just a miserable little dickhead with glasses. And all he ever did for me was walk out on me. I think I understand women a lot better than some guys do. Because women want the same things as guys do, they just don't want them for as long. Guys want the quick fuck in the alley all their lives, whereas girls get tired of that pretty quick. They want security, and security means you have to give up everything that might be a risk to their security, which is why I'm not married.
My dad once went out with a woman that he really fell in love with when he was very young. He must have been about 17. And this girl died of a heroin overdose. And, my dad is anti-heroin. I mean, he will not have anything to do with someone who's on smack. But this girl, and I think it's because of this girl, because he really loved this girl. And he found her in the bathtub, he found her dead in the tub. And I think that as I can recall, he sat in an armchair for like 3 days. He hasn't been able to really feel the same way about any other woman since that woman. And that might be a part of why he is the way he is.
I don't miss her anymore.